Have you ever wondered why your body sometimes treats something totally harmless, like pollen or peanuts, as if it's a major life-threatening invader? Well, today we are diving deep into what happens when your immune system just goes into overdrive. We've got a fantastic guide to hypersensitivity ready to go, so let's get right into it. So, what is going on when your body's personal defense force, its own security team, suddenly turns on you? I mean, if you've ever had terrible hay fever or a really nasty reaction to a simple insect bite, you've actually felt this firsthand. It's basically your immune system sounding a false alarm, but an alarm that can have some very, very real consequences. Okay, first things first, let's get right to the heart of it all. What exactly is happening inside your body during one of these immune system freakouts? We're going to break down the fundamentals. The big concept we're talking about here is called hypersensitivity. You can think of it as your immune response being completely, totally out of proportion to the actual threat. So instead of protecting you, it actually starts causing damage. It's kind of like the difference between a security guard calmly escorting someone out versus a full-blown SWAT team raiding the building just for a minor disturbance. Now, to really get a handle on this, there are a few key terms we need to know. First, an antigen. That's just any foreign substance that makes your immune system react. An allergen, that's just a specific type of antigen that causes an allergic reaction. In response, your body creates antibodies, which are like these little protein missiles designed to target that specific antigen. And finally, sensitization. This one is so important. It's that first time you're exposed, the moment that primes your immune system for that massive overreaction later on. So how do we make sense of all these different reactions? Well, thankfully, two scientists, Gell and Coombs, came along and broke them all down into four main types, and we're going to walk through all of them. And here they are. This table right here is basically our roadmap for the rest of this explainer. You can see the key differences right away, right? Look at the timing. Type I is immediate, we're talking minutes. But the others, they can take hours or even days, and they involve totally different parts of your immune system. So let's start with the speediest one, type I. So, type I. This is the one most of us immediately think of when we hear the word allergy. It is fast, it's often super dramatic, and it's all about one very specific kind of antibody called IgE. Think of IgE as the antibody that specializes in allergic freakouts. Okay, so here's the play-by-play. The very first time you encounter an allergen, let's say pollen, your body starts producing these IgE antibodies. These antibodies then go and attach themselves to cells called mast cells, and they just sit there. They're waiting. They're primed. The next time that same pollen shows up, it latches directly onto those IgE antibodies, and that's the trigger. The mast cells basically just explode, releasing this flood of chemicals like histamine, which, you guessed it, cause all those classic allergy symptoms. And this is where you see that mechanism playing out in real life. We're talking about everything from the annoying seasonal sneezing you get with hay fever to the scary swelling from a peanut allergy. It even includes the chronic inflammation behind things like asthma and eczema. But type I reactions have a very dangerous dark side. The most severe, systemic, and life-threatening version of this reaction has a name you've probably heard before: anaphylaxis. You see, when someone goes into anaphylactic shock, it is a full-body crisis. They can experience something called dyspnea, which is where their airway swells shut, making it incredibly hard to breathe. Their blood pressure can plummet, that's hypotension, and then their heart starts racing to try and compensate. This is, without a doubt, a true medical emergency. And that is exactly why knowing how to respond is so critical. The absolute #1 first-line treatment is an intramuscular shot of epinephrine. After that, it's all about securing their airway with oxygen, giving them IV fluids to get their blood pressure back up, and then using antihistamines and steroids to calm down that underlying reaction. Acting fast here literally saves lives. All right, let's shift gears and look at our next two types. We're going to group type 2 and type 3 together, and here's why. They both involve a different, kind of more heavy-duty set of antibodies, IgG and IgM. But as you're about to see, they cause chaos in very different ways. So here is the key difference. In type 2, which is also called cytotoxic, the antibodies directly attack and destroy your own cells. It's like a sniper taking out a very specific target. Now, contrast that with type 3. Here, the antibodies bind antigens and form these little clumps, these immune complexes, which then get stuck in your tissues, like your kidneys or your joints. Think of them like little landmines that get scattered around and cause widespread collateral damage wherever they end up lodging. Some classic examples of that type 2 sniper action would be a blood transfusion reaction, right? That's where the body attacks the wrong type of blood cells. Or another one is Rh incompatibility between a mother and her baby. In both of those cases, the antibodies are targeting very specific cells for destruction.
And for type 3, the landmine type, you should think of autoimmune diseases like lupus. That's where these immune complexes get deposited in places like the kidneys and skin. Or think of rheumatoid arthritis, where they settle into the joints, causing all that chronic pain and inflammation. See? It's the deposition of these complexes that's causing all the damage.
And that brings us to our final category, type 4, which I like to call the slow burn. This one is kind of the odd one out. Why? Because it's not driven by antibodies at all. Nope, this one is all cell-mediated, with T cells running the show. And, as its nickname suggests, it's delayed. So what's the process here? Well, an antigen comes in and activates your T cells. These T cells then release a bunch of chemical messengers called cytokines. The cytokines basically act like a signal flare, calling in other immune cells like macrophages to the scene. And together, they create this slow-building inflammatory response right at the point of contact. This whole process takes time, which is why the reaction might not even show up for a day or two. And this slow mechanism actually explains some pretty familiar situations. You know that itchy red rash you get from poison ivy? That is a classic type 4 reaction. Or the little bubble that forms on your arm after a TB skin test? Another perfect example. And on a much more serious note, this is also the very same mechanism that's behind organ transplant rejection. Okay, wow, that was a lot of ground we just covered, right? 4 different types, all with different timings, different antibodies, different cells involved. So how on earth do you keep it all straight? Well, let's bring it all home with a really powerful recap. This table right here just brings it all together so nicely. Let's just run through the key differences one more time. Look at time, notice that huge split, right? Type I is immediate, minutes, while all the others take hours or even days to show up. Now look at antibody. Type I uses that special IgE. Types 2 and 3 use IgG and IgM, and this is the big one, type 4 uses no antibodies at all. It's all T cells. And finally, the examples really just drive home the real-world impact of each of these unique mechanisms. And for the ultimate takeaway, the trick to remembering all of this, it all comes down to one simple word: acid. A is for anaphylactic, which is type 1. C is for cytotoxic, our type 2. I is for immune complex, type 3. And D is for delayed, which is type 4. It is a simple, incredibly powerful way to remember all 4 types of hypersensitivity. So the next time you sneeze from a bit of pollen, or maybe get a strange rash from a new lotion, you'll have a much clearer picture of the incredible and, yeah, sometimes overly dramatic battle being waged inside your own body. What might seem like just a simple little nuisance is actually a deeply complex and, honestly, fascinating biological event. Thanks so much for joining me.